Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazyfrankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my Week 7 4 key game picks of the 2020 NFL season. Before we talk about Week number 7, Week number 6 did have some surprises. And I don't know what I mean by surprises. Some games were some upsets, to be quite honest with you. Now, obviously, the big upset that happened last week was definitely the Buccaneers beating the Packers. When I did my 4 key game picks last week, and I for sure think that I thought the Packers were going to go into Tampa Bay and beat the Buccaneers. Tampa Bay really, after trailing by 10-0 in the first quarter, they just pounded. They just pounded the Packers. They picked off Aaron Rodgers twice. One of them was for a pick 6, and the Buccaneers defense, all of a sudden, they just woke up and just dominated Aaron Rodgers in that game. My question here is, as I've been praising the Packers throughout the first half of this season, did the Buccaneers find their vulnerabilities? Too early to tell right now, but obviously that if you pressure Aaron Rodgers a lot, and they really got to him in that game. Aaron Rodgers was basically on the grass most of the game. And pretty much, the Buccaneers, maybe they did expose the Packers' weaknesses. But too early to tell. The Packers picked up their first loss of the season. So obviously that was one of the biggest surprises of week number 6. How about the game between the Texans and the Titans? A game that definitely went back and forth, but the big hero in that game was definitely Henry. Derrick Henry basically went beast mode the entire game. He practically just carried the team on his shoulders after what Ryan Tannehill could only do so much, but he did his part too, basically, in helping the Titans make a comeback in the fourth quarter. But man, what a game that was! Go watch the replay of that game, and my goodness, it was such a great football game. Steelers completely just annihilated the Browns in that game, and basically just put Baker Mayfield on the grass the entire game. And obviously, Baker Mayfield running into a very good football team, especially with the Steelers defense. They totally dominated in that game. Obviously, it may have made Baker Mayfield's already injured ribs much worse now. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of questions going on to see whether the Browns could beat the Bengals next week. They did beat them in their first meeting. This is now their second meeting of the year between the Bengals. And obviously now, with the way the Bengals have been playing lately, they are a team that's really getting to know each other. And really, Burrow has really done a great job of really being the quarterback in that offense there for the Bengals. So I think the Browns could be in for a tougher game than they played the first meeting against the Bengals. So we'll just have to wait and see. And the Cardinals, just with the Dakless Dallas Cowboys, just totally dominated them. Murray really just made the Cowboys look ridiculous on Monday night. And of course the Bills the Bills getting their second loss to the Chiefs. The Chiefs I still consider them the class of the AFC, unless somebody like some other team like the Steelers can knock them off the pedestal. Anyways, I could ramble on about week number 6, but let's talk about week number 7 now. All right, let's begin with key game number 1, a big one in the NFC West. It is the Seahawks versus the Cardinals. The Seahawks are a 4-point favorite in this one. I probably may put that maybe as a -3.5, maybe 3, the way the Cardinals have been playing. Now, the Seahawks were on their bye week last week, so this was Russell Wilson's stats against a couple weeks ago. He went 20 of 32 in his last game, 217 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Now, Murray against the Cowboys last Monday night, 9 of 24, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, but most of it was done mostly with his feet. Most of the yards were rushing, and really he made the difference in that ball game against the Cowboys. This is going to be a real test for the Cardinals now. They've been playing fairly well, but they've also been playing mediocre teams. This is the real test against especially a divisional opponent, a team right now that's in first place, that's really the class right now of the NFC West for the time being. This is going to be a huge test. Now, I think this game is going to be a shootout. We may be looking at a back and forth game. This, I think, will be one of the games. I consider this might be one of the games of the weekend here. There could be some other NFL games this coming weekend that could be a lot better than this one. But I think this one is going to be a huge, huge back and forth affair here. But I can't go against Russell Wilson in this game. I'm going with the Seahawks here. I just think that the way the Seahawks are playing right now, even if they're trailing, they still can come back and beat you. This is a Seahawks team, especially with Russell Wilson, that is making a statement for a candidate for MVP. And the way they're playing right now, who's to say that Russell Wilson could steal the MVP away from Aaron Rodgers? But I look at it, this football game here. The Cardinals are going to be in an offensive slugfest with the Seahawks in this one here. But I think the Seahawks win in the end. I like the Seahawks in this game, -4. I'm going with the Seahawks in this one here. Seahawks over the Cardinals. Key game number 2, the Buccaneers versus the Raiders. The Buccaneers are 2.5-point favored. Don't be surprised if that number goes to -2, maybe -1.5. Now, Tom Brady, in the big win last week against the Packers, 17 of 27, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, the Raiders are on their bye, and they obviously had a huge win over the Chiefs back in week number 5. And those stats were 22 of 31, 347 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. I could see this game being another offensive slugfest here. The way the Raiders have been playing as of late. This is actually one of their last toughest games they've got, because if you look at the Raiders' schedule along the way, they got a lot of easy opponents coming up. So right now, this is a game that I personally, well, in all honesty, I think the Raiders have to have more than the Buccaneers, because they want to get into that, they're going to get into that schedule where all the games that they're going to play are so winnable. But it's hard for me to say with the way the Buccaneers have played. I think to me this will be a very close game, no question. I think the Buccaneers will be in a much closer game than they did last week against the Packers. But the way I look at it right now, it's going to be which offense does not turn the ball over. If Brady or Carr don't turn it over, whoever wins the turnover battle, I think is going to win this football game here. But when I look at it, the way the Buccaneers, they're starting to get their groove in, I like the Buccaneers in this game. I think the Buccaneers will beat the Raiders, but it's going to be a very, very close game here. It should be a good one in Las Vegas. But I really think that I'm not going to count on Tom Brady here, especially when he and Gronkowski are finally getting their tandem in the groove finally. It's hard for me to go against Tom Brady in this one here. I really like the Buccaneers in this game. I think the Buccaneers will beat the Raiders, but expect a very close game here. So I take the Buccaneers -2.5, and that is my pick. Buccaneers over the Raiders. Key game number 3, the Bears versus the Rams. Rams are a 5.5-point favorite in this one, and don't be surprised if that number goes to 5, maybe -4.5. Now the Bears, with Foles last week, went 23 of 39, 198 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Now, Jared Goff in a disappointing game against the 49ers, 19 of 38, 198 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. This is a game that the Rams need more than the Bears do, because the Bears are right behind the Packers. The Rams really need this game a lot more, because they're trying to keep pace with the Seahawks as well as the Cardinals. And I consider this to be, I think this is actually going to be a low-scoring game. I think to me, defense is going to be a huge factor between these two teams here. Defense has basically done the job more than the offense has for the Bears. The Rams right now, they're struggling offensively, but I think defense-wise, this is where they're going to make a statement here. I really think this will be a low-scoring game. I don't think it'll probably be like a 17-14 affair, possibly 2017 type of game. I really think this will be a very close game here. Should be a good one at SoFi. at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. It should be a good one on Monday night. I'm actually going to pick the Rams here. The Rams need this game a lot, and I think they're desperate for a win, and I think they'll get the victory here. I really think the Bears will struggle here because remember, the Rams do have a good defense. It's just as good as the Bears. But I really think that, just like when I talked about the Buccaneers and the Raiders, turnovers are going to be huge in this game. They're going to come at a premium as well as points. And whoever doesn't turn the ball over, I think is going to win this football game here. That is why I think the Rams, they're desperate for a win. I think they're going to beat the Bears in this one here. It'll be a very close game. I think it's going to be low scoring, but I'm picking the Rams in this one here. Rams at 5.5. Rams over the Bears. And finally, key game number 4, a battle of the unbeatens, a very big one here. The Steelers versus the Titans. Steelers are a slight favorite in this one at -2.5. Probably this will go down to 2, maybe a 1.5 towards kickoff. Now, Roethlisberger in a dominating win over the Browns, 14 of 22, 162 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Ryan Tannehill went 30 of 41, 364 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception in a back-and-forth game against the Titans. Which offense is going to show up for both these two teams? Who is really going to... I mean, the running game for the Titans has been huge. And it's going to be a real test for the Steelers' defense to really stop Henry because he's been unstoppable. And remember, this is a game that was supposed to be played a couple of weeks ago. They moved it to this week. So let's just see, with both of these teams undefeated, who's going to get their first loss here. Titans have an advantage over them running game with Henry. In terms of the pass, the Steelers are better, or they do have the edge more in passing. So pretty much their offense is pretty much evenly matched here, with one over the other. Defense-wise, the Steelers do have the better defense, but it's going to be a real test to see if they can stop Henry, because Henry has just been beast mode lately. This guy is incredible. This is maybe he's also making his own case for MVP as well in the NFL. Definitely turnovers are going to be huge. Who wins the battle of the turnovers here? And who controls the clock in this one here? This one is actually going to be a good game here. But who do I like in this one here? I just think the way the Steelers are playing right now and the Titans having a big opponent coming up here. This is probably going to be their toughest opponent so far this season. It's really a tough pick here. I don't know who's going to get their first loss between these two teams, but I'm actually going to go with the Steelers here. I think the Steelers will squeak by a victory over the Titans here. Should be a good one on this coming Sunday here. But I just think the way the Steelers are playing right now, and Ben Roethlisberger is on his own mission as well to get the Steelers back into the playoffs and try to get them back in the Super Bowl here. And they got to go through a wall, and that is the Tennessee Titans running game. And it is going to be a close game here, but I think the Steelers will barely squeeze out a victory against the Titans here. Should be a good one here. I like the Steelers this one at 2.5, at -2.5 here. Steelers over the Titans. All right, everybody, that wraps up my 4 key game picks for week number 7. For all of my week 7 picks, please check the description below, and I'll talk to you guys next week when I make my 4 key game picks for week number 8. And until then, take care and enjoy your football weekend.